Hi, everyone. Welcome to our American Mussar weekly gathering. This is going to be our second week exploring the soul trait of equanimity. Um, so we will get started the way that we always do with a short meditation. So please just relax and close your eyes and take in a deep breath through the nose and hold, and exhale through the mouth and hold. And again, inhale through the nose and hold. And exhale through the mouth and hold. And on your next inhale, say to yourself, Shema. And on the exhale, listen. Shema, listen. In Shema, we're listening deeply, without judgment, without offering advice. In Shema, we are listening with an open heart. Shema, listen. And when you're ready, you may open your eyes. It's funny, I'm feeling very centered, which is a part of equanimity, but I'm also feeling very energized. I mean, that is my favorite version of Oseh Shalom. It is very energized, and we can be in equanimity in a lot of different states. It's we'll probably get into we'll do equanimity for a third week, and we'll probably get into this more next week, but it's a little different than tranquility. It doesn't mean that we're just sort of totally calm or whatever. It's being well, what is equanimity? Well, we have a quote to kind of get us started with, and we'll be going a little more meat and potatoes in equanimity this week. So may I have a did we look at this last week? I think it is. I think I'm in the wrong set of slides. Sorry. Yes, that's week number one. Okay. Here is week number two. Nope, we're not quite there yet. Third tries the charm, I bet. Okay,
Oh, thank you.
there we are. Now may I have someone to volunteer to just unmute yourself and read this quote from Rabbi Abraham Isaac Cook.
The song of the birds as they perch in the trees, the sweet smells of lilies, and the fruit of God's garden return one's mind to its natural state. Rabbi Abraham Isaac Cook, quoted in With Heart in Mind by Alan Morinus.
Thank you, Wendy. Now, we may all feel different things about the divinity. So you could think about, God's garden, that's talking about nature. Um, so we could substitute, and for some people, that is what the divine is. So this quote from Rav Cook, what does this kind of bring up for you? What do you think he's talking about here? What is the mind's natural state? Chat. Yes, Carrie, and then Beth.
Um, I'm thinking that the natural state is a sense of calm and no stress, no anxiety.
Hmm.
Because when I get stressed or anxiety, the first thing I want to do is get outside
Hmm.
and either putt around the garden or just sit and listen to the birds. And it just takes all the other stuff away. It focuses on where we all began.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Carrie. Beth.
Um, when I get up in the morning and I get some coffee, there's some birds who live in a hedge outside my patio, and I can hear them, and I always feel peace, like no stress, but alert because I've just had a full night's sleep, and it gives me a sense of joy.
Hmm. Sense of joy from hearing the birds. Love it. Thank you, Beth. Wendy.
Well, I think a natural state of mind is awe,
Mhm.
and being distracted from self-concerns and like the concerns that might take you from that state.
Mhm.
I think that's nature does that, just, I mean, nature does that for me every time. I mean, I can look at a tree for, I don't know, 20 minutes. And the snow, I have to call myself back in from watching snowfall.
Hmm. Thank you, Wendy. It makes me almost think that like these sort of concerns of the world distract us from that state of sort of tranquility or equanimity, and going into nature sort of returns the favor and distracts us back or breaks that cycle of rumination and lets us kind of get back to, it's interesting. It's almost like Rav Cook is saying, by the way, that is the natural state. Like that is the natural baseline. May or may not be true, but he was a real, kind of um, the first Sephardic chief rabbi of Israel, really kind of spiritual, one of the real spiritual giants of the 20th century. Paul.
Oh yeah. So I've been meditating now for more intensely than I have for a long time, for a while, and so I've been interested in the neurological side of it. And there's something that I was reading just earlier today about how we have this what's called a default mode network in our brain, and at this point, uh, what they think is that that default mode usually is focusing on our ego, us ourselves, because it's supposed to keep us alive. Basically, we want to be alert enough to be there, and that it's only well, it's through meditation and some other techniques, but meditation is one way where you can remove yourself from all those chattery thoughts and get more to that being very centered um, in a different sense of self anyway, where you're not worried about this, that, and the other. You're just being very present in the now and, alert in its own way, but not alert to what's going in the brain, alert to what's happening outside. So anyway, thought that was an interesting take on it.
I love that. Thank you, Paul. And of course, we don't talk about the assumptions of Mussar practice anymore, but for those of you who've been here for a while, we used to sometimes talk about the conflict between the Yetzer Tov and the Yetzer Hara. And one of the definitions of the Yetzer Hara is all of these survival instincts. And the Yetzer Tov is kind of the higher mind, which is kind of what uh, those characteristics tend to correspond to the prefrontal cortex, the empathy, the social instincts, the relationality. And I think meditation helps us kind of get into that Yetzer Tov mind. So I think that these meditation practices kind of mirror what we're learning from neurobiology. And it's like I'm always fascinated by that kind of research that Paul's talking about. So thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. I mean, other research shows that like patients recover better from surgery if their hospital room has a window that like looks out on a garden or looks out on nature. And if you just measure people's blood pressure, it goes down naturally. The further you get from buildings and cities, and the more you get into nature, the more blood pressure just naturally goes down. So I think that is that is our natural, quote, natural state, being in nature. Who knew being in nature is more natural than being in civilization? So I think Ralph Cook was onto something. Yeah, Harry.
You always have to remember that our brain was developed thousands of years ago. And if you think about I guess the cavemen or the early manhood, that they lived in constant danger, constant danger. So our mind is really coming from the constant danger that we have. And a lot of this anxiety, a lot of this fear, a lot of this thing comes from our ancient brain, which is really somewhat predominant. And this thing about feeling safe is sort of new.
Hmm.
And that's what we need for equanimity, that's what we need to work on. But it's not our natural state. Our natural state is look out.
Hmm.
Look out for the cyber tiger. Look out for the danger.
Yeah.
And that's the struggle.
Yeah,
And
and I would add, not to go all biologist on you, but it goes back millions of years because
yeah,
the reptiles had that look out for danger instinct as well. So it's like that's the ones that could do that survived. And
that's right.
so yeah, that is
What made us survive is our socialization. It's our ability to socialize and relate and create a safety among the group.
that's
And
right.
if you were a loner, you didn't last very long.
Thank you,
So
Harry.
yeah.
Toby.
Well, I know that you have cats, Greg, and I have cats, and I always like to read the research on animal and human interactions. And I remember reading not too long ago that a cat's purr has a particular frequency that also lowers the blood pressure and makes one feel calmer, makes humans feel calmer. Unless they're running around the house doing all kinds of damage, which mine often do. But I mean, animals are another part of nature. And I figured, I mean, I can tell myself when I am upset or something, if I give my little kittens a hug and a pet and they roll on the ground, I feel better. It doesn't have anything to do with the problem or with problem solving, but
Yeah. So what many of us have been talking about is ways of achieving equanimity, which is what I call the direct path to equanimity, meditation. I call my cats little co-regulation buddies. They just help our bodies feel better, going out into nature. These are direct paths, and sometimes there are indirect paths too. Like this last week, I was meeting with someone, and we were we've been introduced, and we're collaborating on a education project that we want to bring out. And God, we were just not on the same page about stuff, and I really got kind of set off. And I actually had to go take a break and go into the men's room for a couple of minutes and just kind of reset myself. And so there I was like, geez, equanimity's not going so well right now. And so I had to think about maybe the indirect. Like I went out and I took a walk later and that helped me reset. But I also was like, what's soul trait? What was up for me? What was causing, this person was not like being overtly mean or was not like anything like that. So what was it that set me off? And that's kind of the indirect paths, like which trait was causing that. So maybe use that as a jumping off point, kind of go a little deeper in our exploration. Okay, so let's may I have someone read let's start with this first quote. We'll read that and talk about it a little bit. May I have someone unmute, please, and read it out loud.
A person who has mastered peace of mind has gained everything. To obtain peace of mind, you need to be at peace with your emotions and desires. Rabbi Simcha Zissel, the author of Chelm.
Thank you, Ted. Okay, I will copy this for the chat. Okay, so what is Rabbi Simcha Zisselziv talking about? What is the argument that he is making? First of all, what about this first part? Person who's mastered peace of mind has gained everything. Is that true? That's a pretty powerful statement. What's he getting at? Yeah, Harry.
When I had my financial advisory practice and we had prospects, you know, in talking with clients and understanding their needs, it wasn't about making more money or spending or whatever. It was all about peace of mind.
Mm.
And that we were really in the peace of mind business.
Mm.
And peace of mind is basically they can do what they love and not worry about their money and be the best person they could be. And that's what, if you can do that, and if someone can help you do that, it's worth a lot.
Yeah.
And that's what we try to do as advisors. We were in the peace of mind business.
Yeah. And so one source of worry is financial. And so that's a big part of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Harry.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, for me, when I lost my peace of mind this week, it had nothing to do with financial, So that's not the only thing, but and it was incredibly unpleasant to kind of be a little set off.
Yeah.
Beth.
I don't usually listen to popular music, but sometimes I'm exposed to it when I'm out driving in the car and I'm next to somebody at a traffic light who has their window down and their radio very loud. And it seems to me like a lot of popular music is angry at the whole world, like, rap music. And it seems to me like there are some people who are angry at the world or some aspect of it all the time. And so I think that peace of mind is gaining everything because these people have no peace of mind. They're constantly at war with some aspect of where God has put them and what their life is like.
Thank you, Beth. Yeah. Boy, what an image. Constantly at war with the world or with where they are. Constantly angry. Not a good place to be. Carrie.
In regards to that, the age group of the people that are making this music, that is the age, at least in my life, where we were in uproar about everything that was going on in the world. And it was, I think it's just, in your teenage years, your early 20s, maybe even 30s, you had the freedom to be angry and express it a lot. I mean, we don't stop being angry, but we have different ways of dealing with it. But when you're in that hormone crazed period of time, it's not as easy to control or find the good stuff, the calm stuff. So I think a lot of it is age related and probably cultural too.
Thank you, Carrie. I'm sort of listening to my younger daughter, is in getting ready to graduate college. Yay. But boy, some of the drama stories, that's going on. I remember when I was in college, we like went somewhere for something, and there was this speaker, and this guy who was probably about the age I am now was talking. He's like, well, if I could go back to like my early 20s, yeah, I had so much more energy and I was in much better health, but I wouldn't do it because I'm just so much calmer now and so much peaceful about things. And I remember thinking at the time, it's like, what a crock. No way. That's ridiculous. And now I'm like, absolutely. I don't want to go back to that always being unsettled kind of state. And again, to tie in the neurobiology, we know that our prefrontal cortex, we're kind of this Yetzer Tov, that doesn't come online until we're 25. So we biologically don't have the ability to kind of control and downregulate some of that stuff that sort of grows not only through experience, but just biologically. That's part of it as well. Let's talk about the second half of the quote now. All right, we've kind of really hit the peace of mind. Um, you need to be at peace with your emotions and desires. What do we take from that? Yes, Wendy.
Well, that's radical acceptance of yourself, I think.
Uh-huh.
But the way that he put this is quite motivating because the first sentence is, "Oh, yes, I want that." And then he tells you how you're going to have to get it. And if he would have done it the other way, I'm thinking, I would have said, no, 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 I can't do that. But to have something to focus on, I think that helps to obtain peace of mind.
Yeah. No, that's interesting, this sort of radical acceptance. I mean, I when I got set off, I recognized what was going on with me. I've been down this road dozens, hundreds of times in my life, and it's not as severe as it used to be. But I also didn't get into a whole shame spiral later about it. Like, what's the matter with me? And why am I feeling this way? I'm just like, okay, gotta try to work my way through it, take a walk, go to sleep early, and today I'm better. So that was part of it, I think. Yeah, accepting sort of, yeah, this is part of my shtick, not my favorite part. Yeah, Harry.
You know what I was sort of thinking the other day? All these, what do you call it, character traits. We talk about it, and you know what would be helpful is come up with rules for each trait. Can we
Hmm.
come up with rules to better know this is what you should or shouldn't do? I mean, it would be kind of helpful on it. And I was going through, I don't know if anybody uses Pinterest or, that website. And that's a great website if you're looking into certain things and you want to accumulate what's on the web about that subject. And I picked this up from Pinterest, and I thought it was interesting. And here are some rules that I think fit with equanimity, and they call it the 7 rules of life. You ready for this?
Lay it on
Number
us.
number one, make peace with your past so it does not affect the present. 2, what others think of you is none of your business.
My first Musar Havruta told me that one. That was like,
Number 3, time heals most things. Give it time. Number 4, refrain from comparing your life to others and from judging others. You have no idea what their journey is all about. Number 5, sometimes it is all right to not know the answer. It may come to you when you least expect it. Number 6, you are in charge of your happiness. And number 7, smile. You try not to own all the problems in the world.
hmm,
Bingo. Rules of equanimity, right?
there we go. Thank you, Harry.
Give that a try. Okay.
Other thoughts and comments? All right. See, we're doing great on time. So, I think we can move on to this. So let's talk about the spectrum of equanimity. So the mantra for this one, this is sometimes I take quotes from others. This one I wrote, better to surf the waves of life than get pounded or swept away. So what happens at the poles? You know, too little equanimity. The word I used here is hysterical, but just being reactive is probably a better word, you know, just being too reactive. Like yesterday, you know, or earlier this week, whenever it was, I just got too reactive, you know. Someone was just doing the best they could to kind of brainstorm and whatever. Wasn't working for me, but after a while, I just kind of lost you know, I just became reactive. And, you know, to my credit, I kept it internally. I did not externalize my reactivity. Um, Flip side is too much equanimity is being the words I used there are oblivious, ambivalent, but you could even go for like at an extreme, like even just numb. It's just sort of like that's not, you know, Pink Floyd comfortably numb. That's not what we're talking about here. Paul, I see your hand.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was driving around today, and uh, so I've been working with how to sort of be a photographer and what that means to me in terms of creativity. And it's really been and also writing, you know, so I enjoy both of those. But when it comes to some aspects, when I get a an idea for something, I realized, and I didn't wasn't thinking about equanimity as being our topic, but those were the term. I mean, basically, I said that I oftentimes swing from one pole to the other. One is really trying to wrestle with and wrestle an idea into submission, which I would say is sort of on that left hand hysterical side, where I'm just trying to control everything. Or I think, you know, it'll be fine. You know, it'll work out. And that's sort of on the way too laid back. And I never get back to the idea. It sort of disappears from my thought process. And really finding that balance in between sort of being, like we were talking at the very beginning, sort of being both calm and alert, you know, with something like that is the balance for me anyway, that I'm realizing I need to get to. So in that way, finding that middle part and recognize when I'm going too far one way or the other is something that's very important to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Yeah, those are great examples of, you know, and a great illustration of, you know, the middle is kind of where we're trying to be. You know, I think of it as like a window, you know, we're never going to be it like there's no one right place to be, but there's kind of a window where you're doing okay. Yeah, Beth.
Um, I worked some years ago for a woman who was hysterical. I mean, everything was a crisis. It was so exhausting working for her because I mean she would just like suck the energy out of you as she's telling you about what you had to do or what report was due. Um, and you know, I couldn't do anything about her. Uh, it but it was terribly stressful for me having that job, and I was grateful when I got laid off, which is a terrible thing to say, isn't it? But um, I was kind of happy about it.
You know, it's funny you say that because as you were talking about this person, I was reminded of someone who's president of a company I used to work for, and maybe 400, 800 people there. I can't remember, it was a while ago, but someone who'd worked with her at a prior company had said she could take any routine situation and turn it into a crisis, you know, and the whole company culture developed that way. And I was thrilled when I got laid off. So I like went out and got a big milkshake and a big hamburger, and other people were crying that I had been laid off, and I was like, yeah, it's really too bad. And inside I was like, yeah, paid vacation. So I know exactly what you're talking about. Um, other thoughts, or should we get ready for our breakout groups?
On that, one other thing, I guess it's important for us to be aware of how we affect other people,
For sure. Yeah.
because it's a feedback loop.
Yeah. Yeah. And there are going to be some people who just push our buttons. I mean, I hope this collaboration partner, we did talk about it a little bit. We'll kind of get it figured out. So, but yeah, we don't want to be that person for sure. Wendy and then Ted.
Well, just from what Paul and Beth just said, I just remembered that I think it's easier to be alert when you're calm. I had to take care of a little problem. This little boy decided, his mother said, "Come on now." I think I already told you guys this once. Joel Potato Head, we called him. And he went running out of the garage, and there was lots of wind in the Central Valley, and the garage shut on his finger. I just felt a calmness come over me and was able to handle the whole problem. Not that I could do it again, but I thought at that point in time, that calmness helped me be alert and just be able to think. So
Yeah.
that's something to think about.
Yeah. That's kind of the ultimate in being at peace with like your emotions. I mean, that was a little bit of a crisis, but you were like, right, I need to like jump into action here. Ted.
In a way, it's responding to Wendy's and being calm when something catastrophic happens or something like that. Um, and I haven't worked this out, but it's a feeling that I have that the thoughts in my head are not. So I feel the emotion first, and I understand the panic, but, or the hysteria, but I don't have to follow the hysteria. Um, oh, look, I see it over there. I understand what's going on. I am hysterical.
Mm.
I don't have to be hysterical. I don't have to give in to that control.
Mhm.
I understand the emotion. The emotion is there,
Mhm.
but somehow or other, there's a difference in my head between seeing it and believing it or acting upon it.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's helpful at all. Okay.
I think that's great. And one of the readings we skipped was from Eckhart Tolle, which kind of talked about that ability, what he calls, and what I agree is sort of the true self from like the ego self or the emotional self or whatever. And you can let this stuff go on over here, but I'm over here.
Yes, something like that. Yes.
Did I see someone else's hand? Harry.
Yeah. I don't know if anybody ever heard of the vagus nerve that comes from the brain into your system, and it goes through all your organs. And you actually tend to feel something before you think it. You're designed to, as a matter of fact, 80% of your messaging comes from feeling and 20% comes from your mind.
Yeah.
And that's why you talk about trust your gut before you trust your brain. But that's all part of the safety factor in protecting, the ancient, ancient man
Right.
from danger because they felt it before they thought it.
Thank you, Harry.
Yeah.
Yeah, Vegas nerve, polyvagal theory, that's all really important stuff, and I never connected it to this. So that's good to know.
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff out there, Greg. On it.
Right.
Just go to YouTube, and
Right.
it'll save you a lot of time.
All right, we're going to go into our breakout rooms next. In the chat, I have pasted a list of many of the soul traits, the ones that we've worked on so far in this cycle. I know not all of you have been here for the full cycle, and you don't need to know them all. And why are we doing this? Well, we're going to think about an equanimity practice for the next week. All right, so we talked about earlier, I made reference to these two different ways. Can you see the slide?
Yes. Please be as specific, right?
Discuss with your partner? Yeah. So equanimity can be practiced directly or indirectly. And directly is kind of the meditation, going into nature, or even what Ted was talking about, this stepping back and observing kind of the hysteria or the emotional reaction. Or we can kind of go indirectly, like another soul trait that disturbs my equanimity. Like for me, maybe it's honor. I wasn't giving enough thought to, this other person's point of view. So with your partner, think about like what's an equanimity practice you would like to do for the coming week, and try to be specific. And maybe it'll be something direct like meditation, or maybe it'll be practicing a different soul trait as it relates to things that kind of push your buttons. Because if something else is out of alignment, if our patience is out of alignment, then we get impatient and our equanimity goes. Okay, so let me now go to open the breakout rooms. That did not work correctly. That did not work correctly at all. I'm going to pause the break. Well, welcome back, everyone. I would love to kind of hear what you came up with. We have a nice chunk of time for some discussion, and I'd love to hear like what practice you've came up with for the coming week. I am absolutely going to hold these to you, so hold you to them. So yeah, who would like to share first? Yeah, Carrie.
I actually started a week or so ago with this because I was going crazy. My normal thing was to get up, have coffee, read the news, do the New York Times puzzles, and be freaked out. And say that I'm going to go exercise, but because I was so angry at the world, I find other things to do. So bit by bit over the last couple of weeks, I have stopped looking at the news first thing in the morning. I'm saving the puzzles for lunchtime or some other time. And I get out my journal and I write for a half an hour or so. And I also am reading two very interesting books. One is a book called, I can't remember. The second word is alchemy. I can't remember the first word. But it's about people who journal, and there's a prompt on each one. So I've been using these prompts, but what I'm finding is that I'm entering the day much calmer, because then I do get to exercise. And it's just an easier way, it's a healthier way for me to go about living.
Thank you. Can you think of some soul traits that might describe kind of this practice of not reading the news or of...
Yeah. Well, order is always a big one for me. So I change the order of things
Yeah.
in the morning. Let's see. I should have the list in front. Let me get the chat up.
Well, just to kind of in the interest of time, order is definitely one. The other one, I thought it was silence a little bit, where it's kind of
Yeah, yes,
silence.
yeah.
I'm not going to read the news and fill my head with chatter,
Right,
you
right.
know, and that's throwing off my equanimity. So,
And patience. Patience is also
sure.
with myself. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Yeah,
Thank you.
you could go on a huge list. Humility. I am carving out my space. I'm not allowing the news and other things into my space for this time.
All
So,
right.
yeah. Okay. Who would like to go next? Yes, I will go for Beth and then Ted.
Nancy and I were talking, and she, I guess, has been meditating for quite a while. She's a pro, and I have tried it and not been successful, but I think I'm ready to try it again. And I have to thank Carrie again for the book you recommended last week on breathing, because with the help of those exercises, I think I can tackle meditation. And I knew a friend who meditated regularly, and he was so calm and so wise. And um, I think it would be a huge improvement. I've read about it in association with Mussar, and it's time I quit procrastinating.
Yeah, thank you, Beth. I've also I've gotten a little bit away from meditation, and that's the practice that I'm taking on for the coming week. But there's a little bit of a misconception about meditation that we immediately kind of drop into this calm state. And often the opposite happens where the mind starts racing, or if there's other sorts of stressors in your life or things that we're going through, those can really rise to the forefront. And part of it is, again, learning to just be present with what is without expectation. I went to a meditation on the anniversary of October 7th um, it was led by Rabbi Mark Margolius at the Institute of Jewish Spirituality. And he was like, his prompt was just be present with whatever you are feeling right now. And so, I wish you luck with it. And it's a skill that gets built.
Well, I don't know that I'll be ready to drop into nothingness immediately, but I think by trying to, like, maybe meditating on a scripture
Yeah.
or meditating on a soul trait.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. There's lots of different ways to meditate. So cool. Wendy.
Well, we are applying for a loan, so I will be employing the practice of patience.
Mm.
And it's very strange, but applying for a loan is probably the ultimate challenge in equanimity. So that's mine and my breakout room partner will be employing silence, but not like just being quiet silence, but talking when you should and listening when you should. More like about listening than silence, than just not talking.
Thank you, Wendy.
You can hold us to that, Greg.
I will. I'm totally calling you at home, checking up on everybody, have my people visit your house, so for those watching the recording, I'm just kidding.
Oh, darn. Right. Yeah, here I was expecting.
You could be our Alexa.
Just always listening in.
Yeah, always
Right.
listening.
Okay, Toby.
I was partnered with Paul and Carrie, and they had such wonderful ideas that I told them I was going to steal all of them. Paul mentioned that humility and kavod are two traits that he finds help, and so I'm gonna try humility. I definitely can see, and of course, patience is another one that's always really good that I have zero grasp of, but. I've just gotten into meditation again, and somebody turned me on to the app Insight Timer, and there are a lot of either free guided meditations or just with something called Beats, which is a proper frequencies for meditation. It's fascinating. You don't have to pay money. You just go on and you just look for thousands of these different things. And I found very fascinating because I have a limited time span, 15 minutes and I'm done.
Yeah. Well, we only have a couple minutes left, but speaking of Nancy, we haven't heard from you today. Michael, we haven't heard from you. No obligation to share at all, but I wanted to give each of you an opportunity to say something.
All right, I'll be goosed. For me, the soul trait, my core soul imbalance is always trust. So if I'm not starting there, something's wrong for me. So this week I'm going to try to keep your words in my head, Greg, and remind myself to tell my higher power I have tied my camel when that's appropriate to say, and then let go. And if I can do that, that helps me enormously to get towards equanimity.
Wonderful. Thank you, Michael.
Yeah, I think that remaining in an equal or the balanced state of equanimity involves meditation for me and a sense of calmness and peace. And I practice that every day, morning and night. I also am involved in 3 different groups that does a little bit of meditation each time we meet. And it just has really, really transformed my life. Between being with you at the beginning of this many years ago, what was it, 2019 or 20? I guess it was 20, right?
20, yeah.
And right after COVID started, and just doing my own different kind of spirituality practice that has really transformed me. The meditation it's a muscle. This is what we say in our groups. It's a muscle that needs to be practiced to get more, stronger, and it just makes a world of difference. I don't necessarily go into that bliss place or that complete like nothing place, but when you get there, it's pretty amazing. So I just appreciate all you do for us and bring to us, and it's wonderful to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, so amazing. You've been with us from the beginning, Nancy. It's always wonderful when you're here. Well, speaking of meditation, we're going to do just a very short meditation. Then I will stop the recording. And for those of you who would like to remain, I will play the second half of the Nava Tehillah, Oseh Shalom, on our subject of peace. So I invite you once again to relax and close your eyes. Just taking a nice, leisurely in breath and a nice leisurely exhale. Now imagine yourself in nature. Maybe for you that's walking through the woods, hearing the birds, seeing the trees. Maybe it's walking by the ocean, feeling the sun on your skin, smelling the salt air. Maybe it's being in the mountains, feeling the chill of the air, maybe walking close to the snow line. Just let that peace and calm permeate your soul. And now, when you're ready, you may open your eyes.